Hi everyone, and welcome to the Becoming a Registered Training Organisation webinar. My name is Karen. I am the Senior Regulation Officer here at TAC. So if you do have any questions, just type them into the text box there at the bottom of your screen. So the webinar today is broken into three areas. We have understanding the vet sector, the initial registration application process, and what happens after registration. So within these areas, we'll cover the following topics. So the benefits of being an RTO, the vet sector, and deciphering some of the many acronyms it has, the TAC regulatory framework, the application and audit process, and that includes the self-assessment. And in addition to that, maintaining compliance and operating as an RTO once you are registered. So the vocational education and training sector, otherwise known as the vet sector, is a large, complicated sector. And in this section of today's webinar, we're going to unpack it to help you understand it a little better. So VET is designed to deliver workplace-specific skills and knowledge and covers a wide range of careers and industries. VET focuses on providing practical and work-orientated occupation skills to help people to join the workforce for the first time, rejoin the workforce after a break, upgrade their skills in their chosen field, move to a different career, or gain recognition for their prior learning and experiences. So there are many stakeholders, frameworks and registers that make up the vet sector. And as an organisation applying to become an RTO, you'll be required to have some understanding of who they are and what they do. The vet sector is prone to jargon and acronyms. So I'll shed some light on who's who and what the jargon and acronyms mean. So anyone can deliver training, however, only a training organisation that is registered to deliver, registered with a vet regulator can deliver nationally recognised training and use the nationally recognised training logo. So what is nationally recognised training? It is any qualification, unit of competency, skill set or accredited course that is listed on the official National Vet Register, which is training.gov.au. This is the main online database of vet information, which apart from the nationally recognised training products I've just mentioned, it also includes information on training packages and registered training organisations. It also includes nationally recognised training that the RTOs are scoped to deliver. So despite the name, training packages do not describe how people should be trained. Rather, they provide nationally endorsed industry standards against the training which can be developed and flexibly delivered to meet a particular local, individual, industry or enterprise requirement. So the Australian Qualifications Framework is the national policy for regulated qualifications in Australian education and training. It incorporates the qualifications from higher education, vocational education and training, and schools into a single comprehensive national qualifications framework. The AQTF qualifications are quality assured through government accreditation processes to ensure national recognition and consistency and facilitate pathways for students to progress through education and training, gaining formal qualifications. Some other benefits of becoming an RTO. The ability to tender for government funds. RTOs can seek to be placed on the Jobs and Skills WA panel for preferred training providers to deliver government subsidised training to eligible students. Through Jobs and Skills WA, a number of training programs attract funding from the Department of Training and Workforce Development. Another benefit is that your scope of training products will be listed on training.gov.au. which I previously mentioned, has been developed to provide training market information and products in VET. Your information will also go on the MySkills website. This website is a federal government initiative to enable consumers to search for, compare VET courses and training providers. You'll also be able to use the nationally recognised training logos on your certification. So there are some other options. So while there are many advantages to becoming an RTO, it's not compulsory unless training leads to a nationally recognised training product. A partnership arrangement allows your organisation to partner with an RTO in order to assure the quality of delivery, assessment and recognition of training. So this option is allowed by the standards for RTOs and may particularly appeal to an organisation whose core business isn't training. There are many different types of partnership arrangements, and the role and responsibility of each party needs to be identified in detail. It needs to be clearly documented and monitored regularly. If the partnership has any impact on the business of training and assessment, then the arrangement should be documented, in particular detailing how the standards for RTOs are addressed or impacted on. So the standards for RTOs 2015 refers to this kind of arrangement as a third-party arrangement. So the VET sector is regulated by 3 regulators: the Training Accreditation Council in Western Australia, the Victorian Registration Qualifications Authority, otherwise known as VRQA, and the Australian Skills Quality Authority, also known as ASQA. The Training Accreditation Council, or TAC for short, is responsible for the registration of training providers delivering nationally recognised training to domestic students in Western Australia only, or in both West Australia and Victoria. The TAC does not register or regulate providers in WA delivering nationally recognised training to students in states other than WA and Victoria, which includes online delivery. And it also does not register or regulate international students on a student visa in Australia. In addition, TAC does not register or regulate RTOs who deliver nationally recognised training on Christmas Island. Providers in these categories fall under the jurisdiction of the national regulator, the Australian Skills Quality Authority. So further information about these regulators are available from their websites. TAC operates within a regulatory framework to ensure the integrity of nationally recognised qualifications. The main document that RTOs need to be familiar with is the Standards for Registered Training Organisations, 2015. However, it is recommended that you're familiar with the purpose and content of all framework components, particularly the impact that they may have on provider activities and management processes, as these are referred to in the standards for RTOs and may also be audited. We're going to have a quick look at each of these components. So in Australia, VET is regulated by a variety of Australian, state and territory laws. In WA, this includes the Vocational Education and Training Act of 1996 and the Vocational Education and Training General Regulations 2009. So a copy of these documents is available to download from www.legislation.wa.gov.au. That address is also in your useful information handout that you've received. So the AQF is a national policy for regulated qualifications in Australian education and training. It incorporates the qualifications into a single comprehensive national qualifications framework. The AQF qualifications are quality assured through government accreditation processes to ensure national recognition and consistency and facilitate pathways for students to progress through education and training, gaining formal qualifications. So the AQF document can be downloaded from www.aqf.edu.au and Mel's got that one up on the screen for you, and provides the complete set of AQF policies and objectives and information about governing and monitoring arrangements of the AQF. So TAC are also bound by standards, which are the standards for vet regulators. The purpose of these standards is to ensure the integrity of nationally recognised training by regulating RTOs using a risk-based approach that is consistent, effective, proportional, responsive and transparent. It's also to ensure the consistency in the vet regulators' implementation and interpretation of the RTO standards and standards for vet accredited courses. And it also safeguards the accountability and transparency of the vet regulator in undertaking its regulatory functions. It's a good idea to have a read through these standards, as some aspects have an impact on how RTOs are regulated. So the main document that RTOs need to be familiar with is the Standards for Registered Training Organisations 2015. The purpose of the standards is to describe the requirements that an organisation must meet in order to be an RTO, ensure that training delivery by RTOs meets industry requirements as set out in the training package or accredited course, and it has the integrity for employment and further study. It's also to ensure RTOs operate ethically and consider the needs of both learners and industry. So these standards describe outcomes RTOs must achieve, but they do not prescribe the methods in how to achieve the outcomes. So this allows RTOs to be flexible and innovative in their vet delivery. It is acknowledged that each RTO is different and needs to operate in a way that suits their clients and learners. RTOs come in a multitude of forms, such as large TAFE institutes, enterprise RTOs that only train their own staff, community-based providers, private commercial providers and colleges, and many more. So RTOs can be diverse in size, structure, governance, scope, and in the volume of services provided. By describing outcomes rather than inputs, the standards encourage flexibility and innovation while assuring quality of training. So to assist RTOs in understanding their obligations under the standards, TAC developed a number of tools which are available on the TAC website under the tabs titled Standards for RTOs and About Us. By clicking on the education program within the About Us tab, you'll find a range of support and guidance material. The user's guide provides explanation and guidance on using the standards for RTOs, and RTOs can use this guide to understand their regulatory obligations and to establish and maintain systems and processes that both comply with the standards and suit the RTO and its clients and learners. RTOs can also use this guide to conduct internal reviews and guide improvement initiatives. A range of fact sheets have been developed to provide further guidance in understanding the standards. Fact sheets cover a range of topics such as assessment, marketing, validation, and third-party arrangements. TAC run a number of workshops that build capacity and understanding of RTOs and their staff to meet their obligations in regards to the standards. TAC's educative strategies aim to provide specialised professional development opportunities that deliver practical information to support business improvement and compliance practices. The vet sector is a big world, and apart from TAC, there are a number of other agencies that you should be aware of. NCEVA stands for the National Centre of Vocational Education Research. The NCEVA is an independent body responsible for collecting, managing, analysing, evaluation and communication of research and statistics about vet nationally. RTOs are required to report to NCEVA on the training that they have conducted. This is known as Total Vet Activity, or TVA for short. The TVA data has to also comply with the VetMIS, which stands for the Australian Vocational Education and Training Management Information Statistical Standard, which ensures that RTO's data is accurate and consistent. So USI, a unique student identifier, or USI, is an individual education number provided to students which collects an online record of all nationally recognised training that they have undertaken in Australia. The USI is part of the information provided to NCEVA through the Total Vet Activity Reporting. Each student undertaking nationally recognised training must have a USI unless they are exempt. RTOs must collect and verify a student's USI before they can issue an Aqf certification for a nationally recognised training undertaken. The Australian Industry Skills Committee, otherwise known as ASIC, consists of industry leaders from across Australia to provide leadership to the vet sector, ensuring that directions taken by ministers are informed by the industry perspective. So ASIC works with industry reference committees, also known as IRCs, which is made of people with close links to industry and are a formal channel for considering industry skills requirements in the development and review of training packages. Each IRC is supported by a skills service organisation, otherwise known as an SSO, which support the industry engagement while remaining independent from both industry and the training sector. SSOs are also a key access point for other industry stakeholders who want to play a part in the development of training packages. So more information is available on the ASIC website. .gov.au is the official national register for information on training packages, qualifications, courses, units of competency and registered training organisations. Training.gov.au contains information about RTOs, nationally recognised training, which includes the training packages, qualifications, accredited courses, skill sets and units of competency, and RTOs that are registered to deliver a particular NRT product. So despite the name, training packages do not prescribe how people should be trained. Rather, they provide a nationally endorsed industry standards against which training can be developed and delivered flexibly to meet a particular local, individual, industry or enterprise requirement. Training package describe the skills and knowledge that individuals need to perform effectively in the workplace. As previously mentioned, they are developed through consultation with industry and contain the following nationally recognised components. So units of competency, which are the standards of performance required in the workplace. The assessment requirements, which describes the evidence and required conditions for assessment associated with each unit of competency. And the qualification framework, which describes the packaging rules of units of competency that make up each qualification. And then this is also consistent with the Aqf. In addition to qualifications and units created as part of a training package, training products can be created by individuals as an accredited course. These courses cannot duplicate what is already in a training package, but they are used to fill a gap in skill requirements that are not already covered. Accredited courses are developed to address the requirements of industry, enterprises and the community where these are not covered in a nationally endorsed training package. They also have the capacity to address changes in skill needs and the needs of emerging and converging industries and industry sectors in a responsive manner. Vet regulators are responsible for course accreditation. Once a course is approved by a vet regulator, the course is listed on the National Register, training.gov.au. The My Skills website is the National Directory of Vocational Education and Training. organisations and causes. It is an Australian government initiative to enable prospective students to search and compare VET courses and training providers. The Department of Training and Workforce Development manages WA's investment in VET, working with individuals, employers, business and industry and training providers to build a skilled workforce for the future. DTWD provides funding to eligible students enrolled in courses that are deemed state priority qualifications, where a training place is available through the Jobs and Skills WA. DTWD also administers training contracts and regulates the apprenticeship system in WA through the Apprenticeship Office. So we've covered all of the VET sector in the big picture information. So we're now going to spend a bit of time on going through the TAC initial registration application process. So applications to become a registered training organisation with TAC must be made through the Rto Portal. Firstly, you'll need to complete a portal access request form so we can create an account. The Rto Portal is a mechanism for you to view, access and manage your Rto data and applications. The portal access request form is available on the TAC website by clicking on the application forms in the home page. Once you get approval for access, you can use the Rto Portal login button on the TAC website to start your initial application. Once logged into the Rto Portal, click on the application forms and select the Rto 1A Initial Registration Application Form. It generally takes 5 to 6 months from when you submit your application to when you become an RTO. This is to allow time for your application to be reviewed and an audit to occur. Make sure that you take this timeframe into consideration when submitting your application. There are 10 sections of the application form, and a user's guide is available to help complete the form. The user's guide is also available on the TAC website under the application forms. On page 6 of the application form, you will see that you need to specify all training package qualifications, individual units of competencies when you're not going to deliver a full qualification, courses which you are applying. It is important that the titles and codes are correctly entered, as applications that do not provide accurate information may be returned. So be aware that the amount of qualifications that you intend to deliver will be used to calculate the fee you'll be charged, and the qualifications and skill sets from the training and education training package cannot be applied to be added to scope until your RTO has been registered for 2 years. This includes the Cert 4 in training and assessment, which is pivotal for the quality of delivery in the training in the VET sector. You must complete and submit the self-assessment with all the required evidence attached with your application for initial registration. So the self-assessment checklist will assist you in determining if your application is compliant with the standards for RTOs. The purpose of completing the self-assessment is to confirm your organisation's readiness for audit and to identify and organise the evidence you propose to present at audit. Section 9 of the self-assessment tool lists the supporting evidence to be provided with your application. It is important to list the file or document name next to the area it is being submitted to address. This will assist your regulation officer and the auditor, and may mean that your application can be processed faster. The TAC self-assessment template is available on the TAC website and has been included in your handouts. When you submit your application, you will need to also provide evidence to establish your organisation's compliance with the standards for a sample of training and assessment you've identified in your application. However, you must ensure that evidence is available for all training and assessment that you've applied for this will be reviewed by the auditor during the audit. There is no set format on how you should provide the evidence, and it should be appropriate to the operations of your training organisation. So let's have a closer look at this assessment tool. So Section 1 of the self-assessment covers setting up your RTO. So business viability is crucial to the ongoing sustainability of an RTO. Setting up your RTO in line with business, financial and operating standards and staffing your business with people of integrity will be the key to successfully running your VET organisation. Anyone who manages an RTO, including executive officers, legally responsible officers or owners, must satisfy a fit and proper person requirements, as in the standards for VET regulators. The declaration form must be submitted with the initial registration application. The form is available on the TAC website and has been included in your handouts today. To be able to determine your financial viability, you are required to provide the following information with your initial application. So, financial projections for the first 2 years of operations, and this specifically needs to include a profit and loss statement for the past 2 years, balance sheets for the past 2 years, cash flow statements for the past 2 years, and a statement of review by a qualified accountant. This needs to indicate that financial projections have been reviewed in accordance with the Australian Auditing and Assurance Standards, including an opinion as to whether the projections represent a true and fair view of the applicant's future operation. The operations are sustainable during the intended period of registration, and that nothing has come to the accountant's attention that causes them to believe that the assumptions used to provide a reasonable basis for the preparation of the projection. So that is a statement of negative assurance. A statement of review must be signed and dated by the qualified accountant. And with regard to the evidence of financial viability, the information requested in the application form is a minimum. The more information an organisation provides, the more confidence the council will have in assessing your organisation's future financial viability. Please note, if you intend to be an enterprise RTO, you're not required to submit any financial information. For more information, check out the Financial Viability Assessment Guidelines for the Registration of Training Providers 217, and this is located on the TAC website. So Section 2 of the self-assessment is marketing. You are required to provide marketing and advertising materials such as flyers, they could be hard copy or digital, website and social media marketing, including anything to be used by third parties. You will need to submit the process you will use to ensure marketing materials are always compliant with the standards. Section 3 of the self-assessment looks at recruitment and enrolment. Students need to have access to accurate and comprehensive information in print, online or orally. That will assist them to make informed decisions about when and how you will provide training and assessment, your fees, and the terms and conditions of enrolment with your RTO. They should be able to make an informed judgment about whether the course is right for them. So we require all information provided to students, prospective students, prior to their enrolment. A copy of your student enrolment form that you will use in your RTO. Information that you will provide regarding fees and refunds. And if applicable, evidence of how you will protect the student's fees if you're collecting more than $1,500 up front. Section 4 of the self-assessment covers the support services that you will offer to students. You must be able to demonstrate that you have strategies and resources in place to identify any support needs and have the arrangements and capacity to make support available to your students. And you'll need to provide a copy of the complaints and appeals policy that you'll have in place. Section 5 of this self-assessment looks at the proposed delivery of your training and assessment. Engagement with industry is essential for student outcomes to be industry relevant and current. It is important that you record what you learn from your interactions with industry and how you use this information. Evidence that you've conducted engagement with industry needs to be submitted with your application. As an RTO, you'll be required to have effective training and assessment strategies that reflect how delivery and assessment will occur. Your intended practices may be reflected in a single document or multiple documents that address the different aspects of delivery and assessment. A process for how you intend to monitor and improve your strategies and practices is also required. If you are applying for an accredited course, you will need to submit written approval from the copyright owner to deliver the course and a copy of the accredited course document, which will include all units of competency or modules developed for the course. Additionally, if it is not included in your strategies, you will need to submit your rationale for the amount of training that you'll provide the student cohorts for each training product. RTOs are required to employ competent, qualified trainers and assessors to deliver nationally recognised training products. As part of your application, you need to demonstrate that your prospective trainers and assessors have vocational competencies to the level that they will be delivering current industry skills as well as current knowledge and skills in VET. Schedule 1 of the standards outlines the qualification requirements that trainers and assessors are required to hold. Once your RTO has been registered, you'll be required to ensure all your trainers and assessors undertake ongoing professional development. Before you submit an application for registration, you must have organised access to facilities and equipment and have sufficient learning resources to meet the training package requirements. Learning resources must have been developed or purchased, be configured to meet your requirements and be ready for delivery for all training products requested in your application. For training facilities, plant and equipment, you'll need to show that you either own or have a lease arrangement or a written agreement to lease these pending your RTO becoming registered. If you are planning to conduct training at a particular workplace, you will need to have written agreement with each of the employers describing the conditions of use. As an RTO, it is your responsibility to conduct effective assessment that addresses training package requirements, meets industry needs, and is conducted in accordance with the principles of assessment and rules of evidence. As is the requirement with learning resources and assessment tools, must have been developed or purchased, be configured to meet your requirements and be ready to deliver all training products. Your application, however, will only require a sample of assessment tools, 2 units of competency from the highest level qualification in each industry area. You will also need to submit a list of all assessment tools and an RPL kit for either 1 qualification or 2 units if you're only applying to deliver units. Validation of your assessment practices, judgments and outcomes will be key to ongoing monitoring and the maintenance of quality. And lastly, you'll have to submit a plan that advises how and when you will validate your assessment practices, judgments and outcomes. This will be the key to ensuring ongoing monitoring and the maintenance of quality of your RTO. So section 6 of the self-assessment tool looks at your completion documents and processes. You will need to submit with your application templates for statements of attainment, qualifications if you're applying to deliver them, and records of results if you're planning to issue them. The templates need to meet the requirements as set out in the Aqf and Schedule 5 of the standards. In addition to this, you need to submit a documented process for issuing certification documents. So Section 7 of the assessment covers third-party arrangements, which is where you plan to use third parties or provide services on your behalf. If you are intending to do this, remember that you, as the RTO, are ultimately responsible for compliance with the standards, where someone will be providing a service to students on your behalf. The standards for RTOs details the RTO's responsibilities when engaging a third party to provide services on their behalf. So documenting the role and responsibility of each party, in particular how the standards for RTOs will be addressed or impacted, providing transparent advice to prospective and current students on third party and what service they'll be providing students the appeals and complaints process, ensuring that the third party is aware of their requirement to cooperate with the vet regulator, and advising their regulator of the agreement. As part of your application, you need to submit copies of any third-party agreements that you have or intend to have and provide them to TAC. So a list of all third parties with contact names, positions, phone numbers and the services that they'll provide. Copies of the agreements with the third party. Strategies on how you will monitor the arrangement with the third party. And completed forms for each third party. And that is a TAC RTO3 notification of third party agreement form. And they are located on the portal, Rto Portal. So the fees that you are charged for your application are based on this fee schedule. And they're calculated on how many qualifications, units of competency and delivery sites you've applied for. The application lodgement fee is $800 and is non-refundable and is payable at the time of submitting the application. You will be invoiced for the application assessment fee. So the total application fee, including lodgement and assessment, is capped at $50,000. On receipt of your application and payment, your application will be allocated to a regulation officer. This will be the person that you will speak to from now on about your application and your RTO status at TAC. This regulation officer will manage the application and will be your contact throughout the process. Should the regulation officer determine that the evidence provided does not demonstrate your organisation is ready for audit, you'll be contacted and further information will be requested. If the additional information is not received or still does not demonstrate that you're ready for audit, your application may be returned. Your application fee will not be refunded and you'll be required to reapply. If the application does meet the requirements, you'll be contacted by the regulation officer with further information regarding an audit. An audit process flowchart was included with the information that the handouts that you've received. TAC has a panel of 7 contracted auditors who conduct audits on their behalf. Your application registration officer will allocate your application to one of them. Before an audit occurs, you will be advised by the Tax Secretariat in writing that the audit will occur and who the auditor is. When you are contacted, you will be given the opportunity to declare if you have a conflict of interest with the auditor. So a conflict of interest would arise if you had contracted the auditor that has been scheduled to conduct your audit. You cannot use a conflict of interest declaration as a means of picking and choosing an auditor, and TAC may seek further clarification on declarations relating to perceived or potential conflicts of interest. If there is no conflict of interest, the auditor will contact you to organise a suitable time for the audit to occur. When the auditor contacts you to organise the site visit date, they may also ask for additional evidence to be emailed to them prior to the audit. The auditor will review the information provided with the initial application and any additional information requested to assist in determining any areas that they may need to further explore at audit. This desktop review allows the auditor to reduce the amount of time required for the site visit and to concentrate on areas that need further clarification. Please note that the information that has been provided to the auditor via the application, such as the assessments for 2 units, is only a sample. At audit, the auditor expects that the RTO is ready to start and that evidence for all training products on the scope are available to be reviewed. Let's have a look at who might be involved in the audit. So the auditor may seek technical advice or expert industry advice to ensure that strategies for training and assessments meet industry, regulatory or workplace requirements. On the scheduled day, the auditor will come to your organisation. An observer may attend too. Observers are generally from the Tax Secretariat and sometimes attend audits for a number of different reasons, such as when the audit is taking place at a private residence, the type of audit, for example, a complaints audit, or just to ensure that the correct audit process is followed and to guard against bias, error and omission by providing a third-party view to the site visit. You are able to have whomever you wish attend the audit. However, it is important to understand that when engaging a consultant, unless the consultant has been delegated the authority by the RTO's legally responsible person, the consultant cannot provide responses to the auditor on behalf of the provider or enter into discussions regarding conduct, progress or findings of the audit. The audit will commence with an entry interview to be conducted by the lead auditor, who introduces the audit team, outlines the audit process and the anticipated schedule for the audit. No 2 people, business practices or providers are the same. The auditor generally has minimal knowledge or insights into your operations and is therefore reliant on you to provide clear, logical information about how the business operates. At this meeting, you'll be able to provide the audit team with a snapshot of your business. During the auditor will ask a series of questions and view evidence to ensure the required systems and processes are in place and ready to be implemented. The focus of the audit will be to ensure that you are ready to operate effectively as an RTO if you are registered. The audit will determine if you have a clear understanding of where and how you operate, the structure of your proposed RTO, who your clients will be, and how you intend to implement the strategies you have proposed to support your self-assessment for initial registration in the short and the longer term. There is no set way in which evidence is to be provided to the auditor at audit and can be electronic, say a laptop or projector, or hard copy. Throughout the audit, if it is determined that your application does not meet one or more of the standards, the auditor will discuss the gaps in evidence that you'll need to address to become compliant with the standards. The auditor will also inform the next steps in the process and answer any questions you may have. In saying this, auditors cannot advise, consult, or provide an opinion on any aspect of your business, including staff or clients, unless these are opportunities for improvement to be included in the audit report. The audit will conclude with an exit interview and with the relevant staff. At this meeting, the auditor will provide an overview of the audit findings and allow you the opportunity to ask questions. The auditor will also explain what happens after the site audit and provide you with information on how to dispute the audit findings if you would disagree with the findings, or how to lodge a complaint with TAC. If non-compliances are identified at audit, the auditor has 10 working days to provide a formal audit report to the Tax Secretariat. When the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with the requirements for standards, auditors will assign an overall level of compliance. This level of non-compliance is recorded on the report and is one of the factors that informs an RTO's risk rating. The levels of non-compliance are outlined as minor, significant, critical, or critical with risk of injury or death. The auditor will provide Tax Secretariat with the audit report within 10 working days. On receipt of the audit report, the Council will find the applicant non-compliant and provide the applicant with 20 working days to provide evidence directly to the auditor in response to the audit findings. In cases of higher levels of non-compliance, such as significant or critical, the Council will also propose to reject the application. This report will be sent to the legally responsible person and will provide information on identified non-compliance. It is up to you to determine what evidence you will submit to the auditor to demonstrate compliance with the standards. The evidence provided should be clearly referenced or indexed to assist the auditor to understand which standard or clause the evidence submitted is addressing. Once the evidence has been received, the auditor will review and provide a response to the Tax Secretariat within 10 working days. Where non-compliances still remain, the Council will make a decision on either to provide additional time, reject the application, or apply sanctions. TAC will not progress or approve your application for initial registration while non-compliant. If you've demonstrated compliance at audit, the audit report will be provided to the Council for approval at one of the monthly meetings. Once approved, TAC will send you correspondence advising that your application has been approved and that you've been registered for 2 years. The correspondence will include a certificate of registration. Your RTO's details will also be published on the National Vet Register, training.gov.au. For 4 months before your two-year registration expires, you'll be required to submit a renewal of registration application to continue your registration. The registration will then be for a period of 7 years. So what happens next? Registration as an RTO under the standards indicates that the provider complies with the nationally agreed standards for quality of training, delivery, assessment and recognition, and contributes to community confidence in the products and services that provider provides. To maintain compliance, you must at all times comply with the standards for RTOs, including the data provision, fit and proper person and financial viability requirements. Comply with the AQF, the Australian Qualifications Framework. Comply with relevant Commonwealth, state or territory legislation and regulatory requirements. comply with tax policies and any other conditions that TAC may impose, notify the Training Accreditation Council of any changes to your RTO's details or changes that may affect the operations of the RTO, provide information and cooperate with TAC when requested, and monitor any third-party arrangements and implement improvements identified. Any qualifications or statements of attainments issued by your organisation for nationally recognised training must meet the Aqf Qualifications Issuance Policy, Schedule 5 of the Standards for RTOs, the Training Accreditation Council Logo Guidelines, and the Nationally Recognised Training Logo Guidelines. So the TAC, NRT, Aqf logos fact sheet on the TAC website provide further guidance on the use of the TAC and NRT logos. It is a requirement of registration with TAC that RTOs comply with the mandatory reporting requirements. The Learner Engagement and Employer Satisfaction Survey data forms part of the quality indicators. The RTO administers surveys either electronically or hard copy to students and employers, then collects and reports the data directly to TAC. This data is due on the 30th of June each year for the previous calendar year. Total vet activity, or TVA, is the mandatory national reporting requirement for RTOs to the National Centre for Vocational Education Research, NCEVA, at least annually. TVA is the collection and reporting of data that complies with the Australian Vocational Education and Training Management Information Statistical Standards, or more commonly known as a VETMIS data. The unique student identifier forms part of the RTO's VETMIS data and must be included in the TVA submission. So TVA reports for the previous calendar year are required to be submitted by the end of February. However, RTOs now have the opportunity to submit their VETMIS data quarterly if they wish to. Clause 8.4 of the Standards for RTOs requires RTOs to provide TAC with an annual declaration on their compliance. The declaration is in relation to whether the RTO currently meets the requirements of the Standards for RTOs across all of its scope of registration, and if not, action taken or planned to address the non-compliance. And the declaration also requires the RTO that it has met the requirements of the Standards for RTOs for all Aqf certification documentation issued in the last financial year. RTOs are required to complete their annual declaration on compliance by the 30th of September each year for the previous financial year. The RTO Reporting Requirements fact sheet on the TAC website provides more information on how RTOs are to meet these reporting requirements. The Standards for RTOs require the executive officers or high managerial agent of an RTO to ensure the vet regulator in the retention, archive, retrieval and transfer of records. It is recommended that all records retained by RTOs are kept secure and be available for review by TAC auditors at any audit. Records can be stored in hard copy and/or electronic formats. Any electronic records should be backed up regularly. The Records Management Fact Sheet on the TAC website provides more information on the type of records required and the period of retention to ensure compliance with the standards. So RTOs are invoiced an annual fee on the anniversary date of registration. The amount charged is dependent on how many training products are on the RTO scope of registration. All fees are non-refundable and exclude GST. RTOs should check their scope of registration to prevent being charged for training products that they are no longer delivering. Training products can be removed by completing an Rto amendment to scope application on the Rto portal. There are two categories of audits, those resulting from applications and those initiated by TAC. Audits resulting from applications are the result of applications from providers and include initial registration audits, amendment to scope audits, and renewal of registration audits. When an application is received, a desktop review is undertaken to determine if further information is required. A risk assessment is then conducted to determine whether and what type of audit, be it a site or a desktop, is required. Audits initiated by TAC are undertaken most commonly to monitor compliance and respond to an identified risk. The different categories of TAC-initiated audits include monitoring audits, complaint audits, strategic reviews, and compliance monitoring audits. These audits are usually required to ensure that the actions are undertaken by an RTO to rectify non-compliance have been deployed, or to address particular training areas or concerns which may have been raised by industry. A complaint audit can be initiated in response to a complaint if an internal review determines that there are grounds for further investigation or that there are potential breaches of the standards. Strategic reviews are audits that are conducted to provide an in-depth analysis of systemic issues pertaining to a specific industry area or other systemic vet issues. The consideration of risk at the local level allows WA to respond locally or nationally to identified quality issues and intervene in a timely manner. Compliance monitoring audits allow for the monitoring of compliance with the standards for RTOs as a result of non-compliances identified at previous audits or when seeking removal of a sanction. Where to go for help? The TAC website provides helpful information to RTOs to build the capability and understanding of RTOs and their staff to meet their obligations in regards to the standards. Fact sheets on a range of topics are available under the Standards for RTO tab. Application forms and guides on how to complete the forms are available under the quick links. Link to the sign-up page for the TAC newsletter, which will provide you with up-to-date information on what's happening in the vet sector. Further information on an RTO's obligations, audits, and the Compliance Recognition Program is available under the Registration tab. And next to it, select the About Us tab to access TAC's Education Program, which provides a range of support and guidance material, including fact sheets, PD opportunities, recordings, resources, frequently asked questions, and podcasts. In addition to this, all of TAC's policies and guidelines are available under the About Us tab. A link to the TAC Rto Portal is also located on the TAC website. It's a convenient way for RTOs to access their details. The portal is a direct link to TAC's data system. Through the portal, RTOs can view registration details with TAC, including contact details, scope of registration, and delivery profile. RTOs can also use the portal to submit online applications. So there are a number of professional development opportunities available which can be accessed via the TAC website. If you miss a session, don't worry, as there are recordings and resources from previous education sessions available on the website too. If you do have questions, please contact us. There are our details. You can send us an email to tac@dtwg.wa.gov.au. The website address again. Otherwise, give us a call and we can answer any of those questions. Have a lovely day, And any questions, please let us know. Thank you.